Often people asking the government to raise their taxes. One group of wealthy Americans is, however, in D.C. today doing exactly that. From there, we're joined by Garrett Gruener, who founded Ask.com and is a member of what they call the Patriotic Americans group. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us on CNBC.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You make a very important point that actually for the American economy, as far as you are concerned, inequality is a bigger disincentive for American growth than marginal rates of taxation. How do you argue that through?
Well, the taxation for folks at the top end is at historically low levels. And I believe that that's a big problem for the country. It's a problem for our economy. And that's why we're walking the halls here of Congress today to try to get them to restore the levels that existed under the Clinton administration when we had much higher growth.
Yes, you say that it is no coincidence that the two highest peaks in American income inequality came in 1929 and 2008, and both were followed by periods of subpar growth. Why was that in your view?
I think what happens is that, first of all, I don't think it's just correlation, it's causation. And I think the reason for that is that ultimately too much of society's capital ends up in the hands of too few. People end up highly indebted, and as a result you have a collapse of demand, especially in the housing area. And that's precisely the scenario that's happened now, both in 1929 and again here in 2008.
But that is not the received wisdom, is it? Mitt Romney just fought an election campaign in which he suggested that lower rates of marginal taxation would be good for the economy, and 59 million people voted for him. Why don't those 59 million people get what you're saying, in your view?
Well, I'm a venture capitalist. My job is investing in small, high-technology companies and helping them to grow. And I have made many, many decisions of this sort, and my firm has made hundreds. And literally not once, and I mean that, not once, have we ever taken marginal tax rates into consideration as a reason to invest or not invest. And the reason for that is simple. We're looking for large amounts of growth, not just a few percentage points one way or the other. I think that the Republican Party has a theory, and I think they're sincere about this, that reducing marginal tax rates will lead to growth. The problem is that it's neither supported by my personal experience nor by the experience that we've had as a country over the last 30 years, when growth has actually been higher when the tax rates were higher.
Garrett, others in your position in terms of allocating capital, particularly to early stage or companies, would argue that more regulation, an increase in the capital gains tax, some continued uncertainty is leading them to look for, higher potential returns than they otherwise would, and therefore not allocate capital as aggressively. Is that not the case for you?
No, I think it's about markets. I think it's about markets and the pace of technology. And the pace of technology, to some degree, is driven by governmental investment. Much of the life science side of the venture business grows out of investments we've made in biomedical research. Obviously, I benefited personally enormously from the investments we made as a country in what became the Internet. And business in general is supported by the investments that we make in infrastructure, bridges, and so on, roads. The question is, are we investing enough as a society in order to grow a high technology economy? And I believe the answer to that is no.
The trouble is, however, just finally before we let you go, is that this 1% that we're discussing is a very wide band. I mean, you are worth $350 million. That tax rate at 40% may be very punitive for somebody on $250,000 as an annual income with a family.
Well, I think that remember, first of all, that at $250,000 there would be no increase at all. This is a marginal tax rate. So we're only talking about 4 cents out of every dollar above $250,000. And I think that that's a reasonable level for society to decide that those who are more fortunate can help society with its needs.
Interestingly, Mark Cuban is watching this very program at this very moment and tweets amen to the guy on CNBC saying that he has never discussed tax rates in his investment making criteria. I haven't either. You will admit, though, that it is a rainbow of millionaires, right? And there are some out there who are barely millionaires, are barely staying millionaires, who obviously don't agree with you, who are saying, you want to pay more, write the check and go away.
Well, you know, the reason this is a democracy, and of course I expect people to have different opinions, and I think that's a very good thing. But I can only, attribute my own experience, which is that it has made no difference in terms of my investment, practice. And I believe that, we have to make choices as a society. The things that we want to accomplish, there are some things that we can only accomplish together. If we want to invest in defense, or we want to invest in infrastructure, or we want to invest in our people, it takes money. And we are at historically low levels in terms of taxation, especially on the upper 1%. It's time to revert at least to the levels that existed under President Clinton.
Mr. Gruener, it's great to meet you. Thank you very much for sparing the time to join us on CNBC. Garrett Gruener, the founder